concern is on the uptick in inflation, which we're seeing, and which, of course, you alluded to, during your presentation. So, is there any policy options? Are there any measures that the CBN is possibly exploring or, looking at, to tame inflationary pressures that we're seeing? Seeing that inflation is, risen now for 2 consecutive months,
That's what you want to go, right?
Yes, from Business Day. Thank you.
Well, first, I think we must appreciate the fact that between April 2022 and August 2022, we're seeing a very steep rise, a very steep slope in the rate of increase in inflation rate in Nigeria. The rate of acceleration was quite steep. But by around May, from the May meeting when the global pressures on inflation began to show real signs globally, we also started to raise MPR, albeit in an attempt to tame the aggressive rise in inflation. And what we saw is that because of the actions that we have taken, the rate of increase in prices, which is inflation, had begun to decelerate. For instance, between April and August, the rate of increase in inflation was about 5%. But between August and even now, the rate of increase in inflation is only about 1.4%. Right? Because of the tightening measures that have been adopted by the CBN over this period, which, yes, what one would expect is that because we're tightening, inflation should immediately begin to drop. It doesn't happen that way. What you will find, particularly in our environment, is that as you are tightening and you see, or before you start tightening, and you see inflation moving very aggressively, and you begin a policy of tightening, what you want to do first of all is to stem that rate of increase before you begin to see a reduction. Once you achieve the kind of moderation in the rate of increase of inflation, the next thing you're going to begin to see is that it should begin to come down as you continue your tightening policy. That is what we're doing. Whereas you will see that the transmission mechanism in some economies is that it's almost direct. As you are tightening, you are seeing inflation trending downwards immediately. But it differs, the rate of response differs from one economy to another economy. The Monetary Policy Committee was comforted at this meeting that the fact that the tightening measures had started to reduce the rate of increase in prices, which is inflation. We believe that as we continue this process, that inflation will eventually begin to trend downwards. Are we optimistic that, for instance, this March meeting, are we optimistic that by May, inflation would have started to trend downwards? No, we're not that optimistic for a range of factors. Whether we like it or not, between now and May, or the end of this administration, we expect that subsidy will disappear. Subsidy removal has its own implication on prices, which is inflation. So because monetary policy is not optimistic that prices will continue to come down because of these measures, but monetary policy feels that we need to continue to tighten. And that's what we did at this meeting. What would also continue to be the strategy? The important thing is for us to continue to look at what is the margin between policy rate and inflation. The margin between policy rate and inflation has remained wide, which is negative real rate. And in economics, when you find negative real rate, it is a disincentive to even investment. And so everything has to continue to be put in place by monetary policy authorities to see that we reduce that margin or that gap in the negative real rate by ensuring that inflation comes down. And whatever needs to be done to rein in inflation, we have to continue to do so. So that will continue to be the strategy, but we'll do it more moderately going forward, because we are conscious of the fact that when you over-tighten, just like we have seen in some in the US and in Switzerland, that it could begin to have contagion effect and negative impact on banking system and financial soundness indicators and financial system stability in an economy. So those are the kind of balance that we're looking at monetary policy, to see that, well, whereas we want to continue to tighten so as to rein in inflation, we must do it in such a moderate manner that we try to achieve the moderation in inflation rate, but at the same time without creating financial system instability in our economy. Unfortunately, that is where we are, because of the uncharted territory that we have found ourselves, arising from various geopolitical tensions that we have seen all over the world. So what am I saying in summary? The strategy would be, how do we reduce the gap in the negative real rate? To reduce that gap in negative real rate, we will continue to tighten, albeit moderately, to ensure that we achieve the level of inflation, which may rather now be over a somewhat prolonged period of time, so that if you do it more aggressively, it could have some negative impact on banking system stability and financial system indicators, financial soundness indicators. So that will be the strategy. It's a difficult balance, but that is the job we have to do, and we have to make sure we do it correctly.